Awaken the truth, why Athena's myths will haunt your dreams at midnight. The clock struck midnight and the world slipped into a shadowy hush. But not every soul was asleep. Whispers of Athena's myths danced through the air like ghostly phantoms, dragging the curious into the depths of unease. The stories weren't just tales told to children, they were alive, pulsating with the dread of ages, ready to ensnare the unsuspecting. The faintest sound echoed in the darkness, an eerie rustle that sent chills down spines and left hearts racing. In the solitude of a dimly lit library, Jessica stumbled across a dusty tome, its cover embossed with a symbol that resembled Athena's owl. The very moment she opened it, a frigid gust of wind gusted through the room, ruffling the pages. Each word she read resonated like a drumbeat, promises of knowledge intertwined with dire warnings. It was said that those who sought Athena's wisdom would find themselves tormented by visions of ancient battles, their nights filled with horror as the echoes of lost souls came rushing back. A flicker in the corner caught her eye, a shadowy figure. No, just a trick of the light. But the air grew thick as if weighed down by 1,000 secrets. Jessica couldn't shake the sensation that she was being watched, the eyes of the legends holding her captive. The more she read, the more she felt a tug at her subconscious, awakening something primitive, something fearful deep within her. Suddenly, the lights flickered off, plunging her into darkness. Anxiety coiled around her throat like a vice. What power did this book hold? Outside, thunder rumbled ominously, and the wind howled, signs of a brewing storm, or an omen of something worse. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Her heart raced as she picked the book up again, its pages almost humming with energy. A section titled "The Warnings of Athena" stood out. She felt an electric pulse travel through her fingertips. There it warned of a curse ignited by ignorance, of a sleepless night creeping into dreams, turning each memory into a nightmare. Were these just stories? Or had she unwittingly unleashed something? With each passing second, the tension mounted. Outside, the storm raged, but the tempest inside her was even fiercer. This was no ordinary book. The tales promised vengeance, and with a curious click, the lights flickered back on. But now, a cold spot lingered beside her, the air crackling, heavy with anticipation. Something sinister loomed on the cusp of her discovery. What waited just beyond the turning of the next page? What fate awaited her for daring to dig into Athena's hidden truths? The chill that enveloped Jessica felt like a warning, a pulse quickening her breath. She hesitated, the tome vibrating with an unseen energy, its presence practically breathing beside her. Each letter on the page painted vivid images in her mind, warriors clashing in the moonlight, shadows looming large, hearts torn between valor and fear. With a deep breath, she began to read aloud, her voice trembling yet fierce. Beware, seeker of wisdom, for the truth is a double-edged sword. Suddenly, the whisper of her voice echoed off the library's walls, becoming a cacophony of haunting murmurs that clawed at her sanity. Do not invoke the names long forgotten, the wrath of gods lies unquenched. Biting her lip, she pressed on, unable to turn back now. Dark tendrils of air twisted around her, almost pulling her into the realm the book described. She felt a pang of dread echoing deep within her bones. Was this what it felt like to tempt fate? Before she realized it, her surroundings began to shift. The library dissolved, and she found herself standing on the battlefield of an ancient war. The clanking of swords intertwined with piercing screams filled the air, striking a deep chord of terror in her heart. She spun around, desperate to find her bearings, but there was nothing steady here, only chaos. Jessica. A voice cut through the tumult, familiar yet shattered. It was her friend, Mark, the skeptic who had long laughed at her curiosity. But here he was, clutching a shield, blood smeared across his forehead, his eyes wide with panic. "Get back! You should not be here. What is happening?" She shouted over the din, her voice almost drowned out by the fury of the fighting. The ground quaked beneath her feet, reverberating with the clash of ideals and forgotten tragedies. "What did I do?" "You read the words," Mark yelled, his body slipping into the shadows of the fray. "You opened a door that shouldn't have been touched." A piercing shriek echoed through the air, and she turned to see a monstrous figure looming at the edge of the battlefield. It was a grotesque giant wrapped in shadows, its eyes glimmering with an eerie light. It was watching her, hungry and relentless. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her feet felt glued to the ground. Suddenly, memories flooded her faces of the cursed warriors, their desperate cries, the pain radiating from their eternal suffering. Athena's curse wasn't just a myth. It was real, a tangible entity, drawing her into its web of despair. She could sense its intent, lurking behind her every thought, ready to latch onto her soul. "Fight, Jessica." Mark's voice barely reached her over the chaos as the shadows encroached. "You must resist." But with each word, each heartbeat, the giant became more persistent. That cold spot beside her solidified into a presence, the very embodiment of Athena's truth. The whispers warned her that many had fallen before her, ensnared and lost forever. Jessica's heart thundered louder. The truth was not merely knowledge, it was a burden, a reckoning she wasn't ready for. What awaited her on the other side of this revelation? Did she hold the key to ending the curse, or was she destined to join the ranks of the damned? As the shadows lunged, plunging towards her, she knew she had one chance to confront the truth head-on. In that moment, the tome exploded with light, blinding her as a new whisper filled the air, a call to unravel the tragic tapestry of ancient stories. Would she be able to rewrite them, find a way to break the curse, or would she drown in its depths? The answer loomed as the darkness swallowed her whole. What awaited her in the abyss? Only the next chapter could tell. The blinding light engulfed Jessica, each heartbeat a rhythmic pulse, a countdown to something unknown. As the darkness stretched to engulf her, it pulled at her very essence, a slippery grasp that threatened to erase her from existence. She felt the weight of ancient truths pressing upon her chest, squeezing the air from her lungs. Suddenly, the chaos faded, replaced by an eerie silence. Then came the whispers, soft at first, like fingers brushing against reality. They slithered through her mind, carrying fragmented memories of battles long past, of stars that had witnessed truths too painful to bear. The battlefield was replaced by a barren landscape, the ground cracked and lifeless, a reflection of Athena's curse, ephemeral yet unyielding. "Jessica," the familiar voice floated through the stillness. It was Mark, but his tone was different. It was laced with urgency, dipped in dread. "You must remember. You're not just a bystander. You hold more than you know." "Hold what?" She gasped, her voice trembling, fracturing under the weight of reality. "The power, the connection. You're linked to them, the ones who fought when the gods turned against them." His eyes bore into hers, fierce and desperate. "This isn't merely a story. It's etched in your blood." As his words echoed, images flickered in front of her, glimpses of her ancestors, warriors wielding swords, their faces marred with pain but shining with hope. Each glance ignited a fire within her, a primal instinct awakening. Yet it came with fear. What part of this fate did she share? The giant's presence returned, shadows swirling around it like dark mist, its eyes seemed to see into her very soul. The realization struck her harder than any sword: if she was tied to these lost souls, then their fight was her own. She could not simply run, she had to confront the answers buried within herself. "Do it!" A voice commanded, one she didn't recognize but resonated with fierce authority. "Claim your rightful place." Jessica's heart swelled with an unexplainable energy as she lifted her chin, feelings of doubt and cowardice falling away like ash. The shadows approached with an insatiable hunger. Panic rose like bile in her throat, yet she felt a flicker of something else: power. Something deep inside, uncoiling like a serpent, whispered its ancient offer. "Release the truth." She shouted, her voice breaking the silence, a lighthouse in the storm of darkness. "I am not afraid. I will not be a pawn in your games." The giant paused, momentarily taken aback, its insatiable hunger replaced by a flicker of confusion. The shadows hesitated, forming chaotic shapes around her, growing restless as if anticipating her next move. Jessica's courage surged, but in that moment of defiance, she remembered something vital: her friends, her family. What if they were connected too? "Mark!" she called, her voice steady despite the whirlwind around her. "We need to break this together. I can't do it without your faith." As she locked eyes with him, she felt the bond strengthening, forged by more than desperation. It felt like purpose. He nodded, determination flickering in his gaze. They were entwined, threads in the same tapestry, woven together by the weight of a legacy that demanded reclamation. Just when she sensed their unity forging a path, the giant let out a guttural roar, launching itself forward. Shadows erupted, twisting and turning into horrid specters, screeching as they twisted towards her anew. Panic surged alongside the flames of determination that lit inside Jessica. "Do not falter," Mark shouted through the chaos, his voice a reassuring anchor. Together. As they stood side by side, a wave of energy surged through them, a potential unbridled. But would it be enough to confront the embodiment of despair that sought to consume them both? Time seemed to warp as they faced the impending doom. Would they uncover the truth that lay within them, or would they fall into the same oblivion that consumed so many before? That question loomed heavy as the shadows lunged, closing the distance, the impending confrontation. Exactly what the stories had warned about. Would hope rise above despair, or would they be swallowed whole once more? The shadows lunged, a black tide crashing towards them, a chaotic symphony of despair screeching through the air. Jessica could feel the weight of countless souls pressing against her, their demands for justice heavy in her heart. Was this truly her fight now, woven into the very fabric of their legacy? "Mark!" she shouted, her voice breaking through the clamor. "If we fail, it's not just us. This chaos will ripple into the world." "I know," he replied, his voice edged with determination, yet it trembled under the strain. "But we can't let fear dictate our choices." In the eye of the storm, a fleeting glimpse of clarity formed around them. The shadows froze for a heartbeat, confused by the unexpected will that surged from two mere mortals. Jessica felt it spark inside her, a fierce glow that began to cast a dim light in the murky void. "Focus," she urged, desperately trying to maintain their moment of strength. "We have to channel everything past, present, and future. Our ancestors fought for a reason." Images flashed in her mind: warriors in the fields of a forbidden past, their valor igniting hope among despair. She was part of this lineage, the embodiment of their lost courage fighting for recognition. Each heartbeat resonated like a drum, urging her to remember her purpose. The giant's roar shattered the moment, ripping her from her thoughts. It surged again, each shadow morphing into dark faces filled with wrath. But Jess wasn't going to cower. No way. Not now. "Remember the stories," she urged Mark, eyes blazing with defiance. "Our ancestors weren't just fighters. They were legends." In that agonizing moment, a flicker within her ignited brighter than 1,000 suns. She stretched out her hands instinctively, channeling the raw energy coursing through her veins. "Take my hand," she urged Mark, her breath quickening. He grasped her fingers, the warmth of his touch cascading through the cold dread. She could feel their connection amplifying, each pulse tying them closer in fate. As they united, the air shimmered and swirled around them, the shadows recoiling momentarily, as if they were facing an unbreakable force. The whispers intensified, transforming from fearful murmurs to battle cries, as the lost souls united under their resolve. "Let us show them what we're made of," Mark shouted, a wicked spark flashing in his eyes. Jessica took a deep breath, feet planted firmly, and raised their joined hands high. "With the strength of our ancestors," She proclaimed, the very air vibrating with her words. We reclaim our story. The moment exploded into chaos. Light erupted from their joined hands, blinding the shadows who howled in fury. But the brightness didn't just repel the darkness, it reached deep into the hearts of every spectre, awakening their buried fears and regrets. Mourn no longer. She cried out, voice fierce, echoing through the barren landscape. You fought valiantly, it's time to remind the world of who you are. With that, the emerging energy formed into bolts of unyielding light that scattered the shadows, each scream replaced by a whisper of relief. The specters began to dissolve into wisps of luminescent memories, their burdens lifted, leaving behind a trail of yearning eyes filled with gratitude, but just as Jessica felt the tide turn in their favor, a low growl rumbled from the giant. You think this is over? You know nothing of the curse you've awakened. The shadows recoiled and regrouped, surging with furious intensity. The giant began to swell, morphing into something even more fearsome, a wrathful embodiment of every failure, each failure of her ancestors. Jessica's heart raced. Their victory felt fleeting, hanging by a thread. She had thought they were beginning to reclaim their legacy, but the real battle was still ahead, darker than she ever imagined. Mark! She screamed, terror clawing at her throat. What do we do now? The shadows thrummed with malevolence, drawing closer again, as she realized the truth. The fight was only just beginning. Would she and Mark find the strength to face the dark and overcome the embodiment of their greatest fears? Or would they be consumed by the very legacy they sought to reclaim? Jessica felt the ground tremble beneath her feet, each pulse echoing the deep growl of the giant. Shadows swarmed around them like angry bees, a sneering horde intent on reclaiming what they believed was rightfully theirs. Every instinct told her to run, but she couldn't leave, not now. Concentrate. We can't give in. Mark urged, his voice strained but resolute, slicing through the cacophony. She turned to him, his eyes wide and determined, and it fueled her fury. They had come so far, they wouldn't let their fear dictate the outcome. The giant loomed larger, its eyes burning with rage. You dare challenge me? It thundered. The very air crackled with dark energy, suffocating Jessica as she fought to breathe, to think. But she couldn't give in. Not now. Not when so many had sacrificed so much. Listen to me. She yelled, putting all her strength into her voice. This isn't just our battle. It's theirs too. They deserve to reclaim their peace. Every soul they had awakened shivered in resonance behind them like a cresting wave, rallying under her words. A myriad of eyes lost, hopeful, hungry for redemption peered from the shifting shadows, stretching their hands toward the giant. The dark entity hesitated, sensing the shift, but it quickly recovered, snarling. Fools! You think you can awaken the past without consequence? My power feeds off your doubt. Your legacy is tainted. It lashed out, shadowy tendrils twisting toward Jessica and Mark, eager to drag them down into the abyss. Jessica felt the fear seep back in, icy fingers wrapping around her throat. But Mark stood firm, squeezing her hand tighter. We're not afraid of you. You don't control us. He shouted, each word punctuated with defiance. Her heart raced as adrenaline surged through her. This was it. They had to awaken the truth, not just for themselves, but for the very souls trapped within the shadows. Together. Jessica cried, raising their clasped hands again. We bring the light back. As if answering her call, a blinding explosion erupted, a halo of pure energy bursting from their hands. Light collided with darkness, and the air shimmered violently. Jessica felt the heat on her skin, a burning surge of power unlike anything she'd ever known. The shadows howled as the light pushed them back. For the first time, she could see glimpses of the figures in the darkness, forgotten warriors, mothers, children, all with eyes filled with hope. They moved in sync, stepping forward, filling the air with strength and unity. You are not alone. She cried out, the words soaring on the wings of the radiant energy. Fight with us. Remember who you are. With renewed vigor, the spirits surged forth, their combined essence illuminating the shadows, scattering their anguish, their denial. Jessica could feel their pain, but more than that, she felt their courage rekindle, a fire igniting within the collective, yet the giant shrieked, a terrifying sound that shook the ground. You think this power can save you? I am ancient. I am eternal. It lunged forward, mindless rage fueling its attack, tendrils coiling like serpents around the light. Jessica and Mark held fast, their hands still entwined, but the reality weighed heavily on her. The light danced and flickered, and for a moment, she felt herself faltering. What if all this was for nothing? What if they were simply feeding the darkness? Just then, a piercing pain shot through her. The giant's shadowy tendrils had reached its target, wrapping around Mark, pulling him further into the void. No! Jessica screamed, panic surging through her. She didn't just feel the shadows, she experienced their malicious thirst and her throat tightened with dread. Jessica! Mark gasped, his voice strained as he struggled against the inky grasp. You have to believe we can't give up. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she fought to keep the light alive. She could lose him, lose everything, but within her heart, hope glimmered stronger than fear, but as reality crumbled around them, she knew the true test was yet to come. Would they manage to overcome the ultimate darkness that threatened to snuff them both out? Or would the shadows consume not just their fight but their very essence? The answer lingered in the air, heavy with uncertainty. Time was running out, and a colossal clash awaited them. Jessica braced for the worst, knowing one truth: she had to reach the heart of the giant before it was too late. Would she discover the key to unlocking her legacy, or was she destined to succumb, entangled in the very nightmare she sought to eradicate? Jessica's heart pounded like a war drum, each beat a desperate plea for strength. The shadows twisted menacingly around her, pressing in like a wave about to crash. She could feel a cold sweat forming at her brow, but she couldn't give in. Not now. Mark! Hold on! She cried, her voice a thread of hope that struggled against the chaos. He was slipping further into the darkness, his body thrashing as the tendrils clawed at him like wild animals. I can't. Jessica. His voice was agonizing, each syllable strained under the weight of the giant's dark magic. She could see his eyes now, bright and pleading but fading. The light they had summoned flickered dangerously, stuttering like a dying flame. With a roaring tide of determination, she focused all her energy into their intertwined hands. She had to push the light further. We're not done yet. She shouted, her voice rising above the confusion and despair. The spirits responded, rallying around her. She felt the surge of their courage intertwine with her own. Fight! She urged them, the simple word bursting with raw power. Remember why we're here. As if the universe spun on her words, the tendrils began to loosen their grip on Mark. The shadows hissed, shrieking as light expanded outward, engulfing the darkness inch by inch. Jessica sensed the growing strength inside her, wielding not just her own willpower, but that of every soul who had suffered in this place, but the giant was relentless. You think this will save you? It bellowed, its voice a storm that shook the very ground. I will consume you all. Its enormous hands swiped at her, sending shockwaves of dark energy toward her body. Jessica stumbled but remained upright. No. You will not. The words erupted from her, fueled by a mix of anger and desperation. She directed the light forward, feeling a warmth surge through her as it clashed against the cold cling of the shadows. She could sense that this wasn't just a battle of strength, it was a battle of belief. Then she remembered the stories, the legends of how those who had come before her had faced their own giants. She cried out for them, threading their stories into the light. Awaken! Awaken, all warriors of old! This is your time. For a moment, the air was thick with an electric charge. The figures from the dark began to coalesce, their energy merging with hers, lives reborn in the glow of unity. Ghostly warriors materialized beside her, faces stern yet resolute. Mothers clasped their children, ready to fight. Together, as if driven by a collective will, they lunged at the giant, the entity screamed again, but this time it was a terrified, bestial sound that echoed in the night. "You will all pay." Mark's eyes glimmered with something profound, fear transformed into strength. With one massive tug, he broke free from the shadows, stumbling forward into the light. "Jessica!" he gasped, breath hitching with relief. "Together!" she commanded, raising her hands alongside his, igniting their onslaught against the giant. But the moment was brutal. The shadows spiraled around them, forming a swirling vortex that threatened to pull them under once more. Jessica felt the light flicker. Panic clawed at her throat, but the faces of those around her kept her grounded. "Fight! Don't stop!" she yelled, her voice unwavering like a war horn amid the chaos. With one last collective effort, they channeled their energy into a silvery beam, piercing the heart of the giant. For a moment, silence enveloped them, a breath of awe and disbelief, then boom. The ground shook again as the explosion rocked the very foundation of their existence. A massive wave of light cascaded outward, but the battle was far from over. Jessica's heart raced. The light might have driven back the immediate danger, but what lay beyond this spark of hope? Was it enough to finally sever the giant's hold over them? As the dust settled, she glimpsed a shadow darting back into the depths, a flicker of something more sinister lurking beyond. It whispered promises that echoed in her ears like a chilling warning, with her heart in her throat. Jessica turned to Mark, knowing this was only the beginning. They could feel it, a new darkness closing in, more insidious and powerful than they had yet faced. "Are you ready?" she asked, determination etched in her features. Mark nodded, but his expression was shadowed with doubt. "What now? What do we do next?" Jessica clenched her jaw, fire blazing in her eyes. "We hunt the true source. We discover what it really wants." But as they stepped forward, the ground beneath them shifted again, swallowing their resolve with an unsettling rumble. What waited for them in the depths was unfathomable, and they could only brace themselves for the storm to come. The ground trembled violently beneath Jessica and Mark, as if nature herself recoiled in fear. Dust bellowed up around them, swirling like ghosts caught in a frenzied dance. Jessica's heart pounded. This wasn't just the giant's magic, it was a warning. "Stay close!" she shouted over the chaos, grabbing Mark's hand instinctively as they stumbled to regain their footing. The air was electric, crackling with dark energy that coiled tighter around their bodies like a serpent. Shadows flitted in their periphery, elusive yet menacing, teasing their senses with whispers of despair. Mark's breath came in shorter gasps, his earlier strength now flickering like the dying light around them. What if we can't find it?" he asked, his voice trembling. Jessica's resolve hardened. "We will find it. We have to. For everyone." Each word was a step forward, driving away doubt. But deep inside, a fear gnawed at her, a fear of what lay beyond, lingering in the darkness, longing for them to falter. As they pressed further into the dim light, a flicker of movement caught Jessica's eye. A figure cloaked in shadow darted just beyond their reach, vanishing into the depths with a laugh that shivered down her spine. The sound echoed, reverberating off stone walls, as if mocking them. "Did you hear that?" Mark's eyes widened, searching the darkness. "Yeah," Jessica whispered, every instinct urging her to retreat. "We should be careful." But the determination to uncover the truth propelled her forward, tracing the elusive figure with her eyes. They moved cautiously, the warmth of their light feeling like a fragile bubble amidst smothering night. Suddenly, a piercing scream ripped through the chaos, a horrible cry that twisted into the air, slicing at their nerves. "We're not alone," Jessica murmured, a chill creeping down her spine. "Yes, but what is it?" Mark replied, voice barely above a whisper as he maneuvered closer to her, the urgency wrapping around them like chains. "Let us keep moving." She felt the weight of countless souls resting on her shoulders, the spirits they had awakened still hovering in the background, ready for one final push. As they forged deeper, shadows emerged, specters trapped in an endless cycle of anguish. Wails filled the air, each lament striking like arrows to their hearts. Jessica staggered. Were these the warriors of old? She wondered aloud. Mark nodded, gazing into the sea of lost faces. They fought for freedom, just like us. But Jessica shook her head. We can't let their spirits die in vain. They deserve peace. With a newfound determination, she reached out, grasping the hands of those specters. We're here. We will break this curse. The light around her dimmed as their souls surged forth, merging within the glow. For a heartbeat, hope was alive, she could feel it pulse through her veins. Together, they began to reshape the landscape, pushing against the oppressive darkness. Just when it seemed they had the upper hand, shadowy claws lashed out, piercing through the golden light, tearing at their hold on reality. Jessica cried out as a sharp pain blossomed in her side, Mark. He stumbled back, eyes wide, shock etched across his face. Jessica. With desperation fueling her, Jessica clutched her wound and focused all her energy, channeling it into a radiant sphere. Fight. We can't stop now. But then, a monstrous growl echoed, the shadows converging into a solid form, an immense figure looming above them. Its eyes glowed with a sickening hunger. You think you can defeat me? It snarled, voice shaking the very ground. Together. Jessica shouted, desperation and courage colliding. But before they could react, the figure swept its arm. Mark was sent flying backward, crashing into the cold stone wall. No. Mark. Jessica screamed, the sound tearing through her like glass. As she rushed to his side, a sinister laugh filled the air. Panic clawed at her chest, but anger ignited in its place. She rallied the spirits again, feeling their energy course through her, fortifying her bravery. We will face this together. The shadows began to close in. Once more, and Jessica's pulse raced. Would this battle be their last? Or could they truly strive for victory against this overwhelming darkness? With each breath, she reminded herself that hope thrived where despair tried to settle. They had to restructure their faith, they absolutely had to find the source of this nightmare before it consumed them all. As she turned back to confront the approaching shadow, Mark groaned while trying to rise, their bond unbroken amid the chaos. She felt the tension thicken, a storm brewing. Would they stand united, or would the darkness finally swallow them whole? The monstrous figure loomed closer, shadows pooling around its feet like thick smoke, swallowing everything in its path. Jessica pulled Mark behind her, shielding him with her own fragile form. She could see the tendrils of darkness swirling, searching for a weakness, hungry to crush their spirits. Get up, Mark. We need to move. Jessica urged, her voice shaky but firm. Each second felt like an eternity, the air thick with tension, as the shadow edged forward, a brutal reminder of the stakes they faced. Mark struggled to his feet, his breathing labored. What do we do? He gasped, fighting to regain his composure. We need to find the heart of this nightmare. It has to be here. It's the only way to break this curse. Although her mind raced with fear, determination clawed through the dark. The ground shook, a fierce tremor sending pebbles tumbling. Dark laughter erupted from the creature, sending chills skittering down her spine. You believe you can escape? You are merely a flicker in this endless abyss. Jessica's pulse pounded in her ears. Don't listen to it. She felt the spirits around her, their pain echoing, binding her to their ancient struggles. We are not alone. With a defiant stance, she raised her hands. Light flickered from her fingertips as she called on the spirits that had joined their fight. Their ethereal glow sparked in response, illuminating the cavern with a radiant aura. Help us. Show us the way. She implored, channeling all her energy into the plea. The air thickened with power, and a soft hum of voices surged back, guiding them. The shadows recoiled, hissing in anger. Mark edged closer to Jessica, the fire in his eyes reigniting as he watched her magic surge. I'm with you, Jess. We can beat this thing. But as the light brightened, a howl of rage erupted from the creature. It staggered back, silhouetted against the brilliance, and then charged forward, a mass of swirling darkness. Jessica felt a knot of dread settle in her stomach. "Focus! Hold the light!" she shouted as the shadows enveloped them, trying to snuff out their hope. "Hold the light!" echoed the whispers of the trapped spirits. Their desperation fused with Jessica's resolve, giving her strength. As the creature clashed against their barrier, sheer force trembled through her, rattling her bones. It bared its teeth, once more eager to consume. "You cannot win. You belong to me." "No!" Mark cried out, lunging forward despite the danger. He couldn't let fear control them. Jessica felt a surge of warmth wash over her as his brave spirit sparked the light further. Together, they pushed back, feeling the clash of energies ripple through their entwined hands. For a fleeting moment, Jessica glimpsed something within the darkness, a flicker of hope, something tangible amongst the chaos. "There. It's there." Pointing toward a pulsating darkness in the shadows, they turned together, urgency flooding their veins. The ominous laughter stopped, replaced by a suffocating silence. The creature hesitated, its appetite for despair suddenly tight. "You think you can reach it? I will not allow you." Jessica gritted her teeth. "We will reach it, and we will free those trapped by you." With a roar of defiance, she directed the gathered light toward the dark core, feeling an exhausting rush. The creature recoiled, shadowy claws reaching fruitlessly in their direction. As the energy surged, the cavern cracked with an explosive pulse, causing the ground to shake violently underfoot. Cracks spidered outward, the structure imploding in chaotic disarray. But then, everything halted. Jessica's breath caught in her throat as she watched the creature flicker. A light began to leak from within it, revealing an entity frilier than anticipated. "No, this cannot be!" it shrieked, agony spilling into the air. In that moment of vulnerability, Jessica felt the spirits rally behind her, enveloping her in divine strength. They surged forward, illuminating the depths of despair with vibrant, shimmering hope. With one final push, she and Mark unleashed their combined light. A blinding flash erupted in the cavern, engulfing everything in a radiance that shattered the darkness. Jessica found herself weightless, the world collapsing around her into a whirl of brilliant sparks, but just as quickly as it began, the light dwindled, leaving only silence. Jessica blinked, gasping. They were back on solid ground, but the daunting void still loomed nearby, unyielding as ever. Mark looked around, confusion etched on his face. Did it work? Did we break the curse? But with their momentary victory came an unsettling realization. The darkness was still there, writhing and waiting, and somewhere, a more profound truth threatened to emerge from the depths. The answers to their questions now lay just out of reach, taunting them. "We need to keep moving," Jessica urged quietly, dread creeping in again. "Where?" Mark asked, eyes narrowing at the remnants of shadow left in the air. "We have to find how this started before it consumes us entirely." Determination surged through her one last time. They turned to face the way ahead, knowing that the real battle was far from over. In the eerie stillness of the cavern, the shadows shifted once more, bundled with hidden secrets just waiting to be uncovered. What had they truly unleashed in their desperate fight? The air thickened with unease as Jessica and Mark stepped deeper into the cavern, their breath echoing against the cold stone walls. Flickers of light danced around them, a comforting reminder of their last stand against the monstrous figure, but it seemed like a weak shield in the face of what was still lurking in the shadows. "Do you feel that?" Mark whispered, his eyes darting across the dark expanse. The hairs on the back of Jessica's neck stood on end, a creeping sensation wrapping around her spine. Something was watching them. "Yeah," Jessica replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's like the darkness is alive." A chilling breeze swept through the cavern, sending an involuntary shiver down her spine. It carried whispers echoing through the stone, obscured yet insistent. "Find me, release me," they floated around her, tantalizing and terrifying. Those voices. Mark started, his jaw tightening as he tried to make sense of the cacophony. Do you think can they help us? Jessica took a steadying breath. Or lead us into a trap? The thought lingered, heavy and oppressive. They had stumbled into a web thick with deceit. As they moved further in, glimmers of light swept across the walls, revealing ancient carvings etched deep into the stone. The images spoke of battles long forgotten, heroes turned to dust, and a looming darkness that feasted on despair. With each step, the whispers became clearer, an urgent chorus beckoning for attention. Thrust into shadows, hate your fate, the heart must be found before the sun goes down. The warnings echoed like thunder in her head. Mark reached out, tracing one of the images with his fingers. These must be the stories of those who faced this creature before us. Every battle, every sacrifice, what if they all failed? Jessica felt a lump in her throat. They can't all have failed. There must be a way to end this. She stepped closer, compelled by the weight of their struggle. The light from her hands flickered as if the spirits were simultaneously supporting and challenging her will. Look over there, Mark pointed, his urgency palpable. A small archway at the far end of the cavern beckoned them forward. It was narrow but bordered by the same intricate designs. What if it leads to the heart? They approached cautiously, the thrill of possibility igniting a spark in Jessica's chest. Could this be it? She breathed, their footsteps slow. Her hope soared and dipped with every subtle change in the atmosphere, but as they reached the threshold, a low growl resonated behind them. The air thickened, and the darkness shifted, creeping closer. Fear gripped Jessica's heart. We're not alone. Mark turned, his fists clenching. We have to face it. Together. Their bond tethered them against the surging malevolence, but the shadows swirled hungrily, inching toward them like broken promises. Not this time, Jessica shouted, summoning the remnants of light she had left. But doubt gnawed at her. Had their efforts merely awakened something worse? The cavern's temperature plummeted, ice settling in their bones as an echo of laughter bounced off the walls. You seek the heart, but all you shall find is despair. This is my realm. The creature's voice slithered through the air, raw and menacing. Run! Mark shouted, pushing Jessica forward just as tendrils of darkness lashed out, barely missing them. They dashed through the archway, adrenaline surging as their bodies moved on instinct. The moment they crossed the threshold, the air shifted. The echoes lapsed, replaced by heavy stillness. Looking back briefly, Jessica saw the shadows twist and writhe, contained for the moment, but that held no comfort. As they turned to face what lay ahead, a familiar light shimmered from within the stone. This must be the heart, Jessica gasped, staring in awe. But as they drew closer, a sinking realization gripped her. What if it doesn't want us to find it? In that moment, the walls pulsated with dark energy, and a voice whispered from the heart, choose wisely or all shall be lost. Suspense flooded Jessica's veins. Why did it feel like they were at the edge of something far more dangerous? What do we do? Mark's voice trembled with impending dread. Maybe we can still uncover the truth, but it may cost us everything. As they stood before the heart of darkness, the weight of their choices loomed. Did they dare to unearth the calamity tied to their own existence? The pulse quickened around them, suffocating yet exhilarating, and in that moment of hesitation, Jessica realized, the shadows were just beginning to stir. What had they really awakened? Jessica and Mark stood before the heart of darkness, their hearts racing as the pulsating light emanated from the stone. It felt more like a beast than an artifact, alive and breathing, filled with both promise and dread. We have to uncover its truth, Jessica said, determination shaking off her previous fear. Mark nodded beside her, his resolve firm despite the shadows pressing against them. Let us do this. Together. Taking a deep breath, they moved forward, reaching out toward the heart. As their fingertips brushed against the warm surface, suddenly the ground trembled, and a rush of energy coursed through them, overwhelming and intense. Choose wisely, echoed that haunting voice again, morphing into a chorus of anguished cries. Jessica blinked as images flashed before her, a slaughtered battlefield, warriors frozen in horror, families torn apart. Each glimpse felt visceral, ripping at her insides. "We can't let their sacrifices be in vain," she shouted, steeling herself against the tide of despair. As they pressed deeper into the pulsing heart, darkness leapt forward. Tendrils of shadow slashed through the air, whipping dangerously close, as if attempting to tear them apart. "Focus!" Mark yelled, "We need to channel our energy, our purpose." Together, they forged their resolve into a beacon, a desperate flame flickering against the encroaching darkness. The memories of those who had fought before them surged within them, igniting a newfound passion to rise against what suffocated them. Jessica thought of the lost souls, their faces filled with sorrow and hope intertwined. She knew they were depending on her. "Feel their strength!" she shouted, as colors erupted from their joined hands, illuminating the cavern with a brilliant radiance. The darkness shrieked in response, recoiling, as if the light was a sword slicing through the dark mantle. In that moment, they gained momentum, becoming a force that propelled them forward, with each pulse from the heart, memories entwined with the rising light, revealing the agony laid bare, warriors whose sacrifices left echoes in time, the weight of their unfinished business overlapping with Jessica's own fight. She felt the sorrow and rage intertwine in her veins. "We have to remember who they are. We're their voices." She screamed into the void. The cavern shook violently as the entity roared back, a sound drenched in desperation. "You cannot awaken the past without evoking my wrath. I am the keeper of these souls." The shadows twisted violently, an angry swarm attempting to envelop them once more. "No!" Mark shouted, stepping protectively in front of Jessica. "We can do this. Together." In that moment, he pushed the light into an unyielding beam that sliced through the shadows, illuminating the anguished faces behind them, each soul emerging from the depths. One of the wrestled specters stepped forward, the visage of a fierce warrior, eyes blazing with life from a dead past. "You are not alone." The warrior's voice thundered, rallying others behind him, each a testament to hope forged in agony. Jessica felt invigorated, the essence of those who had risen before guiding them. "We are their redemption." They shouted as one, and the shadows began to shatter, splintering under the onslaught of combined light and resolve. Despair could no longer thrive in the face of such unity. As they surged forward, the cavern itself bent and twisted, the ground trembling in chaos, giving way to a relentless surge of light. The heart responded, pulsating violently, releasing echoes of a battle cry that resonated through the very fabric of their beings. In a final display of courage, they charged towards the heart's pulsating core. "This ends now!" Jessica cried, their hands clasped and raised high as the light consumed darkness, shattering illusions and despair alike. With a thunderous roar, the heart of darkness erupted, releasing a blinding wave that washed over them, cleansing the shadows that haunted the land, wiping away the very essence of dread that had shackled so many. As the echoes of battle faded, a profound silence washed over them. Mark stood beside Jessica, stunned yet breathless. "Did we really?" She turned to him, her heart swelling as the cavern transformed, becoming a refuge adorned with light instead of shadows. They had rewritten the stories, reclamation flowing through the air like perfume. Embraced by warmth, memories drifted around them, a chorus of gratitude poured from the spirits freed by their fight. "We did it!" she gasped, tears streaming down her face. "We opened the door of hope." Jessica felt connections blooming. The world was no longer just theirs. It belonged to every soul bravely facing their share of darkness. They were now part of something larger than fear, a legacy illuminated in courage. As their surroundings flourished into life, she turned to Mark and whispered, "This is goodbye to the shadows that haunted us. We've awakened the truth." They stood, hand in hand, ready to step into a brighter tomorrow, resolute in their journey of reclamation, emboldened by all those who fought beside them. "Let us walk together," Mark nodded, setting forth. "We'll write our own stories now." And as they left the cavern, the shadows settled into the past, transforming into whispers of strength, a promise of brighter days, a legacy of hope reborn. You need to subscribe now to catch every exclusive story like this one. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic finale. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes a world of difference.